This conference will now be recorded.
So, Home Depot, huh? That's
Yes.
your new spot, Home Depot, right?
Yes, it's my second home, feels
Your
like.
second. So, what type of projects do you have going on right now? Just your typical painting and sprucing up?
Some of that and also some more moderate projects I would say that we discovered
Okay.
that require a bit more of like masonry work, carpenter work, drywall. But
Sounds like real work.
yeah, not just painting.
Man, that's beyond my pay grade. Yeah, I can't. Which my wife will tell you, I'm pretty bad at. So definitely past my pay grade. So, I appreciate you taking time out to do this. It's all about the student athlete.
Yeah, really great to meet you, and I'm glad that I think Candace connected us, right? So was glad to see what you're doing in the financial literacy space. There's a lot of need in a lot of different areas, and that's the type of work I do is trying to help athletes. And so it's always great to meet other people who care about athletes too, and are former athletes. So really great to meet you.
Absolutely. Yeah, more or less hitting them from the beginning before they even get to college. It sounds like, as well as after college. When I was looking at your website there.
Yeah, we focus on high school athletes. So our
Okay,
philosophy, a lot of the stuff around your identity and some of the most important decisions you make in your life happen at the high school level.
sure, sure. Okay, well, let me go ahead and jump into my little intro. Um, hey guys, what's up, everyone? My name is Pat Brown. I'm a financial advisor with Edmonds Duncan out of Lawrence, Kansas. Went to the University of Kansas. Um, Loved my time there. Played football. Was a team captain. Started for 3 years. I met a lot of great people and became very passionate about financial literacy for student athletes, which led me down this path of interviewing former student athletes with the hope that current student athletes can learn from their successes and failures. Um, I want to read real quick the definition of financial literacy because I always do that because I'm always under the impression a lot of student athletes think that financial literacy means that they're not smart or something of that nature, and so that's not the case. Um, Financial literacy is the possession of a set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all of your financial resources. And I always liken it to student athletes and how they essentially create habits in order to get them how they currently are as a student to where they are so efficiently as a student athlete. So they already have those habits in them. It's just again getting them to correlate with what they with something like financial literacy. So all right, so I was doing some cyber stalking of you because that's love the cyber stock. So Rebecca, now remind me, how do you pronounce your last name?
Feickert.
Feickert. Okay, so Rebecca Feickert. So you came out of North Dakota, and I thought it was interesting because you basically sent videotapes all over in order to get a scholarship to the University of Kansas.
That's right. I grew up in a town of around 80 people. There were 15 in my high school and 2 in my high school graduating class. So as you might imagine, number one, there was not a lot of great competition around. I played mostly against boys. Big, strong farm boys, not afraid to push me around. And,
Right.
secondly, there wasn't a lot of recruitment happening or opportunities to play on club teams or be seen by coaches. I'm also from a blue collar family, and the elite travel ball circuit was not something that was in my family's budget.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that I helped my father every summer in our water well drilling business. So there was no time for basketball because there were trenches to dig and mud to shovel. So yeah, I made
Wow.
my own tape and I mailed it all over the country. And coaches were really, I think, interested in the fact that I'm 6'2" and I was primarily a 3-point shooter. And so that was a bit of a mismatch in the women's
Right.
basketball game. And they flew up to North Dakota and watched me try out with a bunch of high school boys. And in the course of about 3 months between my junior and senior year, I went from no Division I offers to over 40 total offers across the three
Crazy.
NCAA divisions.
That is crazy. That's awesome. That is awesome. So what made you just send the tapes out? Were you, I guess, you just really want to obviously get to a Division I program, or I guess what gave you that mindset to be able to put that together and say, yeah, I'm just going to send tapes out. I'm going to do this.
I was really inspired by my high school coach. He was a big advocate for me, and he believed that I could play at the next level. And I believed in him and his leadership as a coach. And so he really encouraged me to make the tapes and send them out.
That is awesome. Like I said, kind of going through and like I said, more or less cyber stalking, obviously academics were just off the charts. I mean, even when you got to KU, just three-time women's basketball academic pride award, three-time athletic director's honor roll, 2009 Big 12 conference all academic first team. So you weren't afraid of the books at all, huh? To say the least.
No. I think that's always been a big part of my identity is my identity as a student too. And that's really helped me in tough times because sometimes things aren't going well in the classroom. Sometimes things aren't going well on the court. Hopefully things aren't, I'm not struggling in both areas at once, but if I was struggling in one area, it helped me. It helped my self-esteem and my sense of purpose and things to have, other things on the other side to focus on. And
Sure.
I also think for me too, I felt very early on from the people who love me and are surrounded by me that my identity was not solely restricted to me as an athlete, that I was supposed to do the best I could in everything I did and bring that athlete mindset to everything, work as hard as you can, always get better, try to be the best. And so I felt comfortable doing that because I had the support of people around me that was the right way to go about it.
Awesome. Awesome. So if you kind of go back your freshman, sophomore year, did anybody ever talk to you about budgeting or credit, anything of that nature?
Not explicitly. I came into college, as a blue collar kid. I'm a first generation college graduate. I really had no awareness of even what to major in college, what different career paths were out there, the connection between what you study in college and how much money you're likely to make, or what career options are available to you. So I came into college very nervous about making the right decisions.
Hmm.
I am someone who can teach myself something, and I'm a very curious person. So I decided to major in accounting because I liked it in high school. And my uncle told me it was the language of business, that everyone needs an accountant. So you're safe if you major in that. And I also liked how linear it was. Major in accounting, become an accountant, versus,
Yeah.
major in history, become a history historian. There's a lot of people who major in different majors that lead to a lot of different careers. Think about majoring in like economics and what that could lead to. There's tons of different jobs connected to that, but
Absolutely.
the lack of linearity for it was scary to me because I had so little experience or kind of formal guidance in how to go about some of these decisions. So on the financial side, my parents were always very focused on, never spend more money than you have, always live below your means,
Yeah.
be conservative, save for a rainy day, that kind of mentality. So I took that with me into college. And I remember one of the first finance classes I took, them talking about, if you save for retirement now at 18, 19, 20, it'll grow because of
Right.
compound to these insane amounts. So I actually took a small gift I had gotten from my grandmother when she passed away, and I walked into a bank and said that I wanted to open a 401k, or sorry, an IRA.
Hmm.
And they had to call my parents because I'm young for my grade. So I wasn't even 18 yet. I was still 17. And they had to call my parents. And I remember sitting across the desk from this guy, and he was just looking at me like I was an alien. Like, what are you doing in here?
Wow.
He'd clearly never been in that situation before. So I guess I would say I had no idea what I was doing, but I at least knew enough that if I got some good advice to, take it and try to apply it however I could.
That's amazing. I've yet to meet anybody that's ever done that at that age. Just coming to college and sitting in front of a bank and say, "Hey, open up an IRA for me." So that's amazing. That is pretty good. So then, as far as some of the decisions you made about money while in college, was it more or less trial and error? Because I would imagine just like you got, or just like us, we had stipends way back when I played. I mean, was that same the case with you guys?
Yes, definitely. We had, depending on your situation, if you were living in on-campus housing or off-campus, that obviously dictated how much money you got. If you were on campus, they just kind of paid your bills for you on the residential side. So
Mm.
I was on campus the first few years, so I didn't have to deal as much with budgeting for my electric bill and all those types of things. But I still had to
Sure.
worry about, paying for gas for my car and paying for groceries and personal items and things like that. And so for me, it was definitely trial and error, but I felt fortunate that I majored in a business degree because
Yeah.
it sort of put things in front of me that I wouldn't have known to look for as
Yeah.
tools and things that I could use and follow so that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel myself. And just generally, I feel like in life, I feel very lucky because I would say I have low standards on what makes me happy. Um, so it's not like I'm, super diligent and responsible and good at, conserving my money, and avoiding temptation. I
Sure.
just I just would rather, cook at home, cook a nice meal and have people over and, drink and laugh and, have fun and enjoy delicious food versus going to a very fancy restaurant or,
Right.
um, I have certain things that I like to spend money on, like anyone does. I don't go the budget option always, but I haven't been someone who tends to yearn for what other people have, if that makes
Keeping
sense.
up with the Joneses, so to speak.
Yeah, it doesn't really interest me.
Well, good deal. You were raised the correct way. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and I don't even know if this question applies to you or not, but what were some of your worst financial decisions you made in college, and what were some of your best? The
Sure.
IRA definitely has got to be one of the better decisions I've heard, like I said, since I've been doing this.
Yeah. I think on the best side of things is even though I didn't have a very strict formal budget, I always was trying to, however much money I got every month, which I think the stipend at that point I started college in 2006. And when I was living on campus housing, don't quote me, but I think the stipend was like $300 or $350 a month. It wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
But again, we got a lot of food, we got a lot of clothes,
Right.
we
Train
got
table.
housing. Yeah. So there weren't a lot of bills either, but, um, trying to whatever I got to at least save, 10 to 20% of that, if at all possible. But again, I was someone who was very lucky. My parents paid my car insurance, my parents paid my cell phone bill, my parents weren't relying on me for help. So I didn't need to take any of that
Yes.
stipend and send it to them. Other family members, weren't relying on me in that way. And so I'm very lucky that I had the privilege to say, oh, I'm going to set this aside. Some people don't have that. And
Yeah.
that's where it becomes a vicious cycle because you can never set any aside. And then when an emergency happens, then you're in trouble because what are you going to do? And that leads you to the payday loan and all of that type of thing. So I'm well aware that being able to start off by saving, it becomes a virtuous cycle where
Sure.
then you have money for emergencies when you need it. And you don't need to, put yourself in a difficult situation. But
Yeah.
I definitely didn't always make the right decisions.
Right.
After college, I moved to New York. And so I got my CPA, I moved to New York, I started working in public accounting, and it was a great decision in one respect, and also a pretty risky financial decision in another, in that I've had over 20 roommates in my life,
Hmm.
including in college,
Hmm.
including a lot of Craigslist roommates in New York. So when I got to New York, I moved in with
Craigslist.
two men that I really didn't know. One I had never met until the day I moved in or talked to. And the other one I had met very briefly the summer before during my internship by happenstance. So I didn't know him very much at all. And I was only 21. Again, I'm young for my grade, and I graduated in 4 years with my master's. And so my parents had to co sign on my apartment lease. And
Hmm.
again, blue collar, middle income type family, not a lot of extra money. New York isn't exactly cheap.
Right.
I called it the rat hole in the sky. It was a 5 floor walk up, but it was terrible. And what ended up happening was one of my roommates had a number of difficult issues, some within his control, some not in his control, and he stopped paying rent. And we started getting eviction warnings.
Wow.
And I was not making very much money at all. I started at $55,000 with a master's degree in New York City, which is not very much money
Yeah. Yeah.
there.
Not in New York.
Um, and I didn't have a lot of money. Fortunately, I didn't have student loans. Again, the privilege of having a full scholarship to play my sport.
Yeah.
Not free, definitely not free.
Right. That's another topic altogether.
I just paid tuition in sweat. That's all,
Right.
not in dollars. But
Right.
I didn't have student loans, which was fortunate. But there was no way I was going to have my parents get a letter or tell my parents that it was a possibility that we were going to owe all this back rent, and we were on a group lease. So I ended up working out a deal with the landlord on the side where she kept sending eviction warnings, but I was actually paying her so that she wasn't, they were fake, to basically make my roommate pay the bill that he needed to pay.
Yeah.
But in actuality, we were good. And so from a financial perspective, it's great to like live by the seat of your pants and things like that. But looking back, I don't know that it was a good idea to enter a group lease with people that I didn't even know. And he's a friend to this day, and I don't blame him for what happened. It was just a difficult situation, but I could have, put my parents at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That is scary. So then looking back at college now, do you wish that you have done, or what do you wish you have done differently looking back, or if there's anything that you would have done differently as far as from a financial standpoint?
Um, I felt in the business school you sort of picked finance or accounting, and I picked the accounting, and then within accounting you had to pick like audit, information systems, and tax. And so within accounting I picked tax, and I was very good at focusing on just becoming a subject matter expert in exactly what I needed to know, which was tax law. And I'm still a tax nerd to this day, even though now I run a nonprofit and work with high school athletes. But I think I could have benefited from really digging in and learning more about the finance side, particularly not so much corporate finance and things like that, that were classes that I did take, but on the personal finance side.
Yeah.
It's just now that I'm really teaching myself a lot of things about personal finance. So I've always been good at the budgeting, the saving, that types of things, but I've never been very confident on the investing side.
Sure.
And so while I've done a lot of saving and I think made good choices, I think I could have made even better choices if I had used the time in college to explore more of that instead of just, tunneling down into solely tax accounting.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Um, so how have the habits that you formed in college affected life after college, or has it?
It's definitely affected it. I think for me, it's allowed me to see money for what it is, which is a privilege. It's freedom.
Hmm.
It's freedom at its core, but it's not valuable unto itself. In that, if you have money but you have nothing else, then you are very poor. And that was a life decision I had to make when I left my job. I was working, in private equity in New York City. I was more financially successful than I ever imagined I would be. But I faced this problem of realizing that so many of my athlete friends were struggling in their lives after sport. And that's what eventually led me to quit my job and to move to Bolivia and to work there while living with a host family in a sport for development organization that uses soccer to help young people escape domestic violence, get back in school, get out of gangs. They work all over Latin America and the Caribbean. They're amazing. And then to go on to co-found this nonprofit, Trey Athletes, which I've done full time. And I really had to come to a reckoning of what money means to me and how much money I need to be happy. Because walking away from the golden handcuffs of not only my very financially lucrative finance career, but also all the unvested stock and other incentives
Oh, wow.
that I had to forego by leaving. It was not a small decision at all. And so, there's been lots of times where I question if I was crazy. Part of this journey to co-found Trey Athletes was going to Harvard to get my MBA. And so
Yeah.
I did take out student loans for that, and it was an amazing experience, the best decision I ever made.
Hmm.
But afterwards, when I moved to Dallas to co-found Trey Athletes and launch it from here, I moved in with my best friend and one of my teammates from Kansas and her husband. And I was living off of like 15-pound bags of lentils from Costco and living in their guest room and driving Uber on the side. And because we couldn't pay ourselves and we had no money and it's a nonprofit and we're rely on grants. And it was a very stressful time for me. And so I think that whole, 5-year journey at this point has really just helped me see money for what it is, which is a tool, which is freedom, which is very important. Anyone who's been short on it can tell you that.
Sure.
But ultimately will not bring you happiness in the way that having a purpose and really using whatever resources you have, your time, your talent, or your money, to actually do good in the world around you. And that looks different for everyone.
You're really young to realize something like that. Typically, is people that older, you know, that realize something like that. So that's amazing that just through this whole experience that you're able to kind of rationalize and understand that at such a young age.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't consider myself young. It's the moisturizer, it's the lighting.
It's the light, the soft lighting. No, truly that's amazing that you realize that. Like I said, it sounds like you realize it sooner than later than most. Um, so, um, so what are some of the pitfalls that you would hope your story could prevent to young student athletes out there? So again, looking back at colleges, what would you tell young ladies, young men to kind of avoid and kind of the pitfalls, if you will?
Yeah. What I would recommend is, regardless of your major, whether it's a class that you can take in college or research that you can do on your own, setting aside, you know, a small amount of time every week, and some very reachable goals on the personal finance side to really understand the basics of personal finance, and then really looking hard at a way that you can save every month if you can, to open a retirement account when you're young and you can benefit from 50 years of compound interest
Compound. Yeah.
or you need it, and really understanding just the basics of investing. I think that it can be very intimidating. With all the things that I've gotten to do and learn, I'm still intimidated at certain points, and I think it's hard to do things that are intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's so important. I remember one time coming in after practice and hanging out with a teammate, and their credit card bill was on the table, and my teammate told me she had written a check, and it was for the bare minimum of the credit card balance. And I
Yeah.
was like, aren't you just going to pay it off? And she was like, well, I don't have to. This is all I owe. And I'm like, no. I'm like, that's the bare minimum. And then, when you flip it over on the back of the bill, it shows you the table of if you only pay the minimum. And the charge wasn't that big at all. It was a lot to us at the time, but
Yeah.
the amount of interest she was going to pay was like more than double what she had actually charged.
Yeah.
And it was just an honest mistake. But some of those honest mistakes, if you do them early on, can really impact your credit score, can really impact your opportunities later. So um, that would be my biggest recommendation. And I know that's so hard for the student athlete in particular, or the
Mm.
college kid who's working multiple jobs and has tons of student loans and things like that. It's like, they need one more thing to do, like they need a hole in their head. But
Right.
it's one of those things that no matter where your life takes you will be helpful,
Mm.
which there are a few things that you can say that about.
Yeah. Um, that is so well said. You know, kind of obviously coming towards the end of these questions, but I just really appreciate your answers. I mean, it was really good to listen to you and hear your thought out process of how you kind of came to these rationalizations. So I appreciate that. I guess again, if you can kind of talk about now that we are towards the end, kind of what you're doing now. We kind of touched on at the beginning, triathletes. Again, I just think your story is amazing, but kind of talk about what you're doing now for these kids and these student athletes.
For sure. So Trey Athletes, we're a youth sports nonprofit. We help high school athletes be leaders, role models, and influential voices for their communities. We're headquartered in Dallas, Texas, and over the past 2 years since we launched, we have worked with high school athletes from over 40 zip codes across DFW, and we currently have 26 alumni who are playing basketball in college across the nation. So
Awesome.
that's been a really exciting growth. Our focus is on 3 pillars of impact. First, we focus on social emotional learning, which is a lot of the things that people think of when they think of what leadership is: your ability to form relationships, your self-awareness, management of your own emotions. We really boil it down to your identity. How do you see yourself as an athlete? How do you understand that you are more than an athlete, and how do you really, use your sport to succeed in other areas of your life and see those transferable skills, and apply them. The second area that we focus on is in the area of college and career exposure. So back to what I said, I knew nothing about coming into college. What is college, and how do you make the most out of college, especially in terms of your academic choices, but also your professional development? When you look at college athletes, in some sports, only 1 out of 4 does an internship versus regular students, 3 out of 4 do an internship. Well, when those two people are both applying for the same job, who do you think gets hired? The person with the direct work experience. So really understanding about the decisions you make and how you allocate your time and how that will impact your college and career opportunities later on. And also exploring different careers. We especially focus on the sports industry. Our athletes do job shadows, for example, to understand that, if you're interested in media and sports, the broadcaster is the person you see, but there's a whole army of people around them who do all sorts of different jobs from engineering to marketing. So regardless of what your interests are, you're not as limited as you think probably in what types of jobs are out there. The third area that we focus on in terms of impact is community and family engagement. And this is just the knowledge that we all have as athletes that sports is very powerful. It's part of our culture. It's something that shapes the world. And so understanding you as an athlete and how you focus your skills and talents and your platform as an athlete to make a positive difference in the world around you, and not coming at it from, oh, you're an athlete, like now you have a responsibility, be a role model. Right. But instead saying, wow, you're an athlete and your microphone is louder than other people. And like, what a gift. And how are you going to use your gift to do something that you care about? And how do you use tools like social media or your platform to do that? So focusing on it that way. So our program that's coming up that we're very excited about is called Season 3. It launches in March 2021. Enrollment is already open. We opened it last week.
Okay.
This is available to high school teams from any sport, any location, and it's completely free. The way it works is we partner with high school and club coaches to bring our programming to the teams. We have fireside chats where we bring amazing speakers. Last year we had Dirk Nowitzki, for example, and Jalen Brunson of the Mavs who came and spoke. These will be virtual events, which is why anyone anywhere can participate. And then after each fireside chat, the coaches will lead a debrief session with their team that uses Trey-provided curriculum to talk about what was talked about in the fireside chat and learn from it and grow and bond as a team. There will also be community service. There's going to be the virtual job shadows, as I mentioned. It's going to be really fun, and it's 10 weeks long in total. So anyone who's interested in signing up or nominating a coach or even an athletic director who might want to learn more can do so on our website, treyathletes.org.
Awesome. That is awesome. That is great. So thank you so much. Like I said, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and kudos to you for all the great work you're doing in financial literacy. Everyone needs it, and athletes need it in a very specific and unique way. So thanks for all you do.
Absolutely. I think it's all about exposure. If we can just like you said earlier, just get people exposed to it, does wonders. So
true.
All right. Well, I'll let you get back to, I guess, painting the shop in the Home Depot, getting your house ready.
my 2 jobs, triathletes and then home improvement.
That's right. That's right. Well, again, I appreciate your time and look forward to meeting you in live one day.
Absolutely. Me too.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.